some of the people I used to. So for people watching on YouTube, you're not my normal co-host. You're not Dirk Perfect, Mike Simon. You're a good friend of mine. Who are you?
I am Chris Johnson. I am a retired Green Beret.
Okay. So I'm still living in Pennsylvania. Mike lives in Indiana, so this logistically doesn't always work. He's done many episodes without me, and it's my turn. It's my turn to branch out on my own and have an episode. So basically, I know you love giving bios of yourself.
My background,
yes,
and my story.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say you are welcome to say whatever or not at all. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It's up to you. Something that I'd like to talk about is I'd like to talk about how people can start bettering themselves. Something that Mike likes to do with the podcast is he likes to kind of give the behind the scenes, if you will, of YouTube and stuff, and have a platform where he can talk more in depth on topics. I kind of like to talk with people who are wiser than I am.
I don't know if I'd say that. I mean, I have wisdom, but
it's more than I have.
Okay, I have some. I've been on the earth for a little while.
Yeah. See, so I like to talk. I like to talk to people because I like to have conversations with people that I feel like somebody watching or listening could potentially go, "Hey, you know what? That makes sense."
Okay.
I like to provoke thought.
So I'm an instructor by trade.
Yes.
I work for Lodestone Training and Consulting here in Pennsylvania. It's a traveling company, so we go all over the country. We'll be out in Salt Lake later this year, down in Texas a lot. Very flexible with what we do. We primarily focus on firearms training, but we also branch into the preparedness mindset with seminars, and we like to call it our Steer Environment series. So any environment that is not your home with comfortable couches and air conditioning and things like that.
Couch.
So a lot of the wilderness skills, land navigation, how to operate in an urban environment. People think austere environment, they think the woods. It can actually be a city. It can be an airport. So that's what I do for a living right now. Like I said in the beginning, I'm a retired Green Beret. I spent 20 years active duty, 14 of which were with 5th Special Forces Group at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I like to say 9 combat vacations, lots of interesting experiences, good experiences, wouldn't trade them for anything. I learned a lot. I was surrounded by some of the absolute best people and was just fortunate to experience and to grow and learn from those people. That's what really made me be where I'm at now. And when I was getting ready to retire, the owner of Lodestone, good friend of mine, offered me to come up here. I was not going to do it. I had a pretty good gig for the Air Force. That was a contract gig and paid really well. That's what made sense. And the more I thought about it and prayed about it, I realized this is where I needed to be. I needed to be an instructor and pass the knowledge I had on. So I came on with Lodestone full time in 2020.
Okay.
And I've been up here for, this is my 3rd year with them. I started in January of 2020. So,
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that you were so recently up here.
Yeah, no, I got up. I actually moved to Pennsylvania in August. It was July. Yeah, it was July 2020.
Okay.
We sold our house down in Tennessee, and I came up here to find a house. The family lived out in Utah with my mother-in-law till that got squared away, and we got the house. We didn't get into the house till November. It was a whole craziness. It was 2020, all the craziness that was going on with that.
I am familiar.
Yeah, you are, aren't you?
Yes. We'll probably get into that a little bit.
Yeah.
Too.
So then I've been up here, and we primarily focus on being able to give open enrollment classes. That's everyday civilian who has an interest in preparedness and making themselves better. That's where our hearts are. That's where we want to train. We do a lot of private classes and military or government contracts, those are to keep the lights on.
Right.
We work with the federal agency pretty regularly, and they keep the lights on a lot, which is great because then it allows us to keep our prices very reasonable so everyone can come and train.
If the lights go out, you have things for that too, though.
Well, we do specialize a lot in night vision.
Yes.
That is one area that, with my background, I understand the importance of being able to operate in the dark and the advantages that it has. I've been in classes and I've tried to convince people that you do not need another Daniel Defense.
Right.
You need to actually get yourself a good set of PVS 14s. Yeah, it's $3,500 for a whole setup, but you're going to avoid problems with night vision, and it's going to be much better for you.
So you get to become more well-rounded,
Oh
essentially.
yeah. And that's one of the things that we really focus on is that whole concept. We have the light fighter concept, being that asset, not a liability, and it's everything from your ability to provide security, whether it's firearms or situational awareness, your ability to move and communicate, your ability to sustain yourself, your ability to do medical, your ability to have food storage, all of those things we focus pretty heavily on. And it's really about helping the individual find a path and reach those goals.
Okay. And I've personally, I would say that's how I met you. I met you first through Dan. He was a very good friend of mine.
Dan is my my adopted son.
Yes.
Yeah, forcefully adopted. He forcefully adopted me as his father. But I did it once myself, so I had to accept him.
Which is interesting too, and it segues into a point that I would like to get out here in the beginning. Is that you guys have a podcast. Lodestone has a podcast.
Yes.
It's not currently on YouTube. I'm going to pull your guys' arm until it's on YouTube. But you can find it on.
We are a dinosaur company. I mean, like technology scares us.
Right. That's okay because that's how you know it's a good company.
Yeah, we are both Gen X guys.
Right.
We're in our 40s.
I got you.
But yeah, we're on Spotify, we're on iTunes, we're on iHeart. That's usually where people find us. It's a Lodestone Training and Consulting podcast.
Yeah, and for anybody seriously listening to this, you really should take a minute, and this is 100% from the bottom of my heart. That podcast is worth your time. I've listened to all of the seasons. I've followed it along and religiously wait for it on Monday. So,
which we have a lot of hate mail right now because
we
have we're waiting. We're going to SHOT Show next week,
right?
And we'll be producing some content when we're out there. But we've taken a little bit of a vacation with the holidays and life being crazy and everything. Yeah,
it's okay. It's just my Monday morning. But,
there's a lot of people that hit us up with that.
Yeah, but
I've got to commute.
What I was going to say is, you actually got my force adopted father before I could, because I've been trying to track him down onto this podcast for about 8 months now.
Yeah. Well, see, I did the I drug him to New England with me. I was like, hey, I need another shooter.
Right.
And I brought him up there to be a second instructor for me for a private client, and I had him as a captured audience. I was like, now that we're stuck in the hotel room,
I'm afraid to capture him, so that's all you. But anybody who's interested, do you remember the title off the top of your head?
We did 2 with him.
Yeah.
We did one on planning your training year, planning out your calendar, and then I believe the other one was on mental toughness. Yes,
and that is the one that I think everybody should listen to. Nothing against the other, but when I think of James, that's what I think
the other one was, we were both smoked. It was like 10 o'clock at night. We had been on the range training all day, and we were like, let's knock this podcast out.
Right. So, an overview of, I guess, what I'm trying to accomplish with this episode. And I have, as usual, very poorly written notes. Anybody who follows our podcast knows that I don't tell Mike anything.
Yeah.
Because I like to have these conversations fluid
and natural.
And natural.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't edit anything unless sensitive information.
So I should have just looked at my notes?
Oh,
no, I'm kidding.
Well, I mean, I can edit that.
I'm not used to having the camera. I'm like, I'll hurry and check this text. I'm
it's
on
okay.
camera.
Generally, we ignore the camera.
Okay, all right.
But the camera just kind of gives that, I think, another depth of reality. You know, we're just a couple of people just sitting here and
enjoying Liquid Death, who's not a sponsor, but I would like to be sponsored by them.
Yeah, you got me hooked on them. But I have Monster because the last time I tried to record a podcast tired, it didn't work well. Sorry, guys, you don't see that one. But, yeah, so I don't tell Mike anything. I give him 0 heads up whatsoever. Usually I don't even have this many notes written.
All right.
And we just kind of go from it. But, so my purpose here is, you know, there's a lot of negativity going around now. Perfect example, if I were to open up YouTube right now, you know, everything recommended to me, and I don't watch half of these videos, but it's, oh, be afraid of this, be scared of that, you need to do this, or else this is happening right now. You know, there was a comedian, I remember when I was growing up, I forget who said it, it was a woman, but she was like, she did a perfect example of this, where it was like, you're watching news at dinner, and it's like, wait, at 11, it could be the most deadly thing in the world, and you might be having it for dinner. And you're sitting there at 5 o'clock like, is it peas?
Yeah.
I hope, you know.
Yes, exactly.
Right. And it's, and things like that, I mean, most people call it fear porn or fear mongering.
Yes.
They're designed to get your attention because fear sells.
Yep.
They need the clicks, you know. So I would like to try to help other people figure out a way to get away from that, because ultimately, in my opinion, things that are designed to suck you in like that, and fear tactics like that, are just a very big distraction from how you can make tomorrow better than yesterday. And I really would just like to see a lot more people make tomorrow better than yesterday, because then I think society will start doing a little bit of a turnaround too.
You know, one of the things that I often see with the fear crowd, that like, you know, do your own research, but I've done it for you. They always throw that in there, like, go ahead and look at this for yourself, but you don't have to because I already have. That's one of those, they're going to give you that little caveat that like, hey, you're smart, I trust you to look into this, but you don't have to be, as I already have.
Or here, better yet, look right here, I'll show it to you.
Look where I'm telling you, look where I'm pointing.
Right.
And I think the number one way not to be afraid is to be filled with knowledge.
Okay.
So, yeah, when these things come up, do your own research. When they present a story to you, spend the 5 minutes and use Google. You know, search it out and see what other angles you can see this from. I held 2 MOSs, and that's military. The job that I did in the Army as a Green Beret. One was an 18 Bravo, which is a weapons sergeant. Okay. Absolutely love it. Just everything from pistols up to anti-aircraft guns. Loved that job. The other was, I was an intel sergeant, and the 18 Fox. That sucked.
Yeah.
But I was really good at it.
Okay.
And I did it for a long time. It kept me on the team, which is where I wanted to be. As an 18 Fox, as that intel sergeant, I really learned how to do analysis.
Okay.
And I hated it because it meant that I was stuck behind a computer reading things instead of out on the range shooting with my team. Still got to go on missions, still got to go take down bad guys, still was a shooter. But when we were back at the team house, they were out on the range training, and I was clicking away at a keyboard trying to get out on the range. So I learned how to take something and say, okay, CNN reported the story and they said all this. Well, I'm going to go look at that same story from Al Jazeera. And I'm going to go look at that same story from Sky News and Fox. And, well, Sky and Fox they're owned by the same people. Most of them are. They're all tied together. And I will try and find independent sources, and I will understand the lens that each one of these organizations is looking at it from. And then somewhere in the middle is the truth. And then with my understanding and the way that I feel about things, that's where I start to read and feel, okay, this is what's really going on. And a lot of the fear is alleviated, because all of those different elements, you know, CNN, they're trying to convince you that we have to do this or the world's going to end. Fox is trying to convince you that this organization's trying to make you think that this is going to cause the world to end, and all these different things. And it turns out, hey, you know what? Actually, this thing is kind of bad, and we should be aware of it, but it's not going to kill us, and we should look at a way to try and get away from it. Right. Okay, cool. You know, I learned something. I think that we're too easily manipulated, just with our human nature of wanting to be hand-fed something easy,
Right.
and not willing to put the effort into it. And when we don't put the effort into something, we are manipulated.
So when I pull out my Pocket Computer 5000 and I'm sitting at lunch, because I have some free time, and I just pull up YouTube and I see all these headlines, I should maybe listen to one or two of these, but also I should probably...
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing wrong with collecting an information. Mm-hmm. Understand that it's information, it's not intelligence. The difference is information is raw. It's like uncooked chicken, okay?
Okay.
Intelligence has been processed, it's been cooked, it's been looked at through a lens. Now it's something palatable. Now it's something that you can actually gain nutrition out of. If you just eat the raw information, the raw chicken, you're going to get sick.
Right.
You're going to get poisoned. So you have to be able to process it. And how you get the processing effect is you have to do the work. That's where so many people, they just don't want to. They would rather listen to whatever talking head and say, oh, well, he cooked it for me. Well, bro, you're eating McDonald's.
Right.
And everyone knows that if you eat nothing but McDonald's, it's not healthy for you, okay? You're definitely going to take on a shape.
So, along with the talking head theory, I can load these questions a little bit. I have taken your Intel class, at least your Intel Level 1 class.
Yep.
So I think it's important to realize, too, that I don't care what side of the political line you're on. They're both pretty much lying to you.
Like, the way that I look at it is I would prefer someone tell me, mm-hmm. and I am a hardcore conservative. I'm a super leftist. Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Right.
Because now I know the way you're looking at the problem.
Now I know your bias.
Yeah. I'm seeing, it's a classic, painting where you have one guy he's looking at and it's a square, and the other guy from his perspective it's a circle, mm-hmm. and in reality it's some weird odd shape thing.
It's a combination of
the two. Yeah. But if I understand where someone is looking at a problem, then I'm going to be able to better understand why they're seeing the things the way they are. Mm-hmm. And I think that is very, very important to be able to do that.
Right.
And I honestly, I do prefer, when people do that. One of my favorite sayings is, remember, left wing and right wing, they're still part of the same bird.
Right.
Okay. And it's just trying to eat us all alive.
Yeah. And because I think a lot of people, tighten my tinfoil hat a little bit here, but the media machine has done a very good job at polarizing our society.
Yeah. And a split people are easier to control.
Correct.
Because you can always get them focused on the them.
Yes, you can always. Oh, don't look at me doing this over here.
Mm-hmm.
Look at him. Look what he's doing.
Look at them. Yeah. Look at them. Look what they're doing.
Exactly.
And the danger of the they.
Right. So you should. I guess what I'm trying to say is you should keep that in the back of your mind when you're looking at this information. Is okay. Historically, I know where this source stands on the side of the fence. Mm-hmm. Now, it might behoove me to go and find a source that's on the other side of the fence and try to read the same article, because everybody
as close as you can. Yes,
they all cover the same story.
Yeah.
It's not like, I'm not suggesting obviously that you go out and read CNN talking about Monster and Fox News talking about the trees outside and compare the two.
Yeah, no, it needs to be the same story.
Right.
And understanding that you're actually an intelligent person. I truly believe that this planet right now is completely full of idiots. However, we are the smartest idiots that have ever existed.
Correct.
We're just really lazy. Mm-hmm. We have so much more access to information than any time prior. The mathematics that we are teaching our children right now, or should be teaching our children right now in school, vastly outweigh anything that was taught in universities 100, 200 years ago. Mm-hmm. This is common things being taught to common people in high school.
Right.
And that's because we can. We just are really, really lazy about it. And we are, it's by nature, it's easy to be lazy and fall back to that default and let someone else tell me what I need to think.
Right. And I think you've been cheating and looking at my notes a little bit.
No, actually, my eyes are getting so bad that I can't read the print. Oh, yeah.
Makes no,
like, yeah.
We're doomed. Well, going to the technology here, do you believe that there's a possibility that a lot of people may be overstimulated by technology?
Oh, 100%. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find it very interesting that we do not disconnect. Right. We are so closely wired and have to have a constant distraction. It's so rare for us to get out and just exist. Mm-hmm. I spend a fair amount of my time backpacking and doing land nav just as a hobby, as something to clear my head. Where I live in Pennsylvania, there's a state park that has a land nav course that I unfortunately have memorized now. It's no longer work, but it's still a good time. Mm-hmm. It amazes me. I'll be on the trail and I will see people with earpods in. They are constantly bombarding themselves with media, even when they're in nature, even when they're out there. They've got all the Patagonia on, and right. they're enjoying nature with a soundtrack
and selfies
and all of that. And I
have a family member who does that.
Well, it's we are so tied to distraction mm-hmm. that we seem to miss a lot, and it's sad.
I agree with you.
And then just because I'm a firm believer, if you point one finger, three are pointing back at you. Mm-hmm. You commented that here in my living room I have 2 televisions.
Yeah, this is interesting.
That's so I can play Xbox on one. Uh-huh. I can be watching a movie on another.
Okay.
And listening to a book play in the background, because I'll overwhelm myself with stimulus.
Right.
Now, until last night, the Xbox hadn't been turned on in weeks.
Right. I was going to say, so you get it all jam packed in one session.
Yeah. The amount of time that I have to do it, I gotta cram it all in.
Right.
But we do. There's nothing wrong with having distractions.
No.
You just have to do the distractions in a manner that it's not ruling your life. Mm. I see it so much where that becomes a priority, not a reward, not a break, not a relaxation, not an escape, but it becomes a priority. That's what the drive in life is, instead of living
right.
and doing things.
Which is, I've caught myself doing this more than once, and it bothers me. It's a habit I'm trying to break. So, we have a toddler.
Oh, yeah. Keeps you up at night.
Yeah, Daddy does. But, so he'll do something, and it's phenomenal, whatever he did, I don't know. He threw his shoe at the dog. It was wonderful. It was, best throw in the world because it's my son. But I immediately, knee-jerk reaction, pull my phone out, start videotaping. Then I'm watching the moment unfold through the screen.
Uh-huh.
And I hate it. It makes me mad when I become conscious of it.
So I had not gone to a concert in 20 years. I went to one concert right before I joined. I went to a bunch of concerts when I was a teenager and stuff. I went to one concert right before I joined the Army. My girlfriend at the time, who later became my wife, got me kicked out of that concert. The entire time I was in the Army, I did not go to a concert. I retire, and my best friend drags me to a concert in Philly, and I am not wanting to go. I'm very against this. Mm-hmm. I can't carry a gun. I can't carry a knife. I've got to go through security. Now, I'm a believer that, hey, I am the weapon. Those are just preferred tools.
Sure.
And I believe that I shouldn't, I can't have this item, then I can't live my life. I know I have friends that won't go to Disneyland because if I can't have a gun, I'm not going to be there. Okay, Right. Do you fly? No, I drive everywhere. Okay, all right. That's a little too crazy for me.
And I will not go here, or here because I have to go through these states.
Yes, exactly. And, you got to be able to live your life.
Right.
So I'm at this concert, and it turned out to be awesome. It was Man or Astroman. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
I have not.
They're a punk band. They're from Alabama or something.
That's a combination. You don't see
They,
every day.
yeah, they're something different.
Okay.
Go ahead, pull them up on YouTube, Man or Astroman. It's interesting.
Okay.
I enjoyed it. I was really, and they're an older band. Like, you know, there's something that played when I was in high school back in the 90s, you know, and they were probably old then. It was enjoyable. But I'm watching all these people. I'm living in the moment. I'm present. And there's all these people looking through their phones.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, I got it. You're going to have that for later, but you're missing the experience right now.
So I'd say 4 or 5 years ago, maybe even longer now, I went to a concert in Philly as well. I saw Linkin Park in concert. And I was one of those people. I videotaped all of my favorite songs.
Yeah.
I don't have much of a memory of the concert, and I've never watched any of the videos. It's like, I've tried, like, more than once. I've pulled the video up and I, like, turn it on and I listen to it. And I'm like, this sounds like garbage.
Yeah.
I'm just going to look at the music video on
yep.
YouTube. It's already there for me. Why did... So I understand you want to have something to solidify that memory. Sure, a couple pictures can do that. I could probably go back and look. I think I videotaped probably 20 minutes worth of that concert. I'm like, why? But so I don't know. I'm sure you are, but are you familiar with the theory of the dopamine and everything?
Oh yeah, the chase and everything.
Yeah, and all the studies that they have done on the screens.
You know, I'm dating a woman right now that is very, very health conscious, and one of the first books that she gave me was a book on sleep because, well, my sleep is complete garbage.
Right there with
And you know, there was a lot about that in the book,
Really?
about the hormone levels and, you know, the blue light and the chase that the device gives you, and that of course sent me down a rabbit hole where I'm doing other research, and I do research. That's something, if I get into that rabbit hole, that's what I'll obsess about. And one of the things I found out was I'm getting a dopamine hit. Every time I find a new thing, I'm finding something. And as that hunter-gatherer, that primitive brain, it's getting excited and it's giving me that reward. And it was kind of shocking. And I was like, oh, all right. Yes. And, you know, going back to the beginning when we were talking about the fear mongers and things like that, we get that dopamine hit.
That's the rabbit hole I went down.
Okay, yeah. When we have those people, and when, like, I'm already feeling a certain way, like, you know, I see that the one world government is a problem, and suddenly I have these other people telling me the same thing. Well, it's confirmation of my own feelings, and I feel good.
Yes.
And I want to support and I want to share that. And I will not pay attention to the fact that they're also saying other things.
Yep. Because you want that confirmation.
Because
bias.
yes, I want to be in the club.
Right. And I went down that research hole very deeply. And, like, I mean, some of the things that I read are, okay, so what are the colors that you're naturally drawn to that will actually trigger an emotional response? Red and white.
Yeah.
If you look at majority of the thumbnails of these scary videos, their point of title is written out really big in red and white letters. I don't think it's a coincidence on all of them. I really don't. Because I have made YouTube videos. I've made thumbnails. There's other color options. You don't just have to pick red or white. Like, there's tons.
You know, I mean, the little YouTube logo, it's red and white.
Right.
Yeah.
I actually didn't put that together.
Yeah.
There you go, Intel. So what do you think somebody can do to try and break that, the dopamine obsession, the dopamine addiction? I've got an idea, but I'm very curious to hear what you think.
The number one thing that will help everyone is you have to be disciplined. And it doesn't matter what we're talking about. You have to set a rule, and you have to adhere to that rule. So I recently, you know, not to take it in a dark turn, but in 2021, my wife passed away. We were married for 20 years. It was a sudden thing. We were not prepared at all for it emotionally, especially. I have a great community that came through and helped out my family and brought us through it. And throughout the rest of 2021 and into 2022, yeah, I'm a strong man. I've been prepared mentally for the suck, like make it miserable. I'm better at that. I function in misery. And I thought I was doing good. And then in July, August, I got into a depression like I have never been in before. Like I have understood the concept of depression. Like I've been sad, you know, I've lost good friends, you know, I've had the normal things, but this was that, like, I experienced not getting out of bed, which I never even understood before. And the thing that got me out of it was, I'm a big believer in exercise. I do really enjoy to work out. So I would work out during this year when I was angry. And I mean, I had some great workouts when I was angry, man. It was like, it was a great motivator. But when the motivation wasn't there, I wasn't working out, and I was suffering because I wasn't working out. So what clicked for me was the rowing machine doesn't care how I feel. The rowing machine just needs to row.
Right.
And I made a promise to myself that I was going to row. I said it, I'm going to get up tomorrow and I'm going to row. So I can lay here in bed and scroll through YouTube and Instagram and go down the rabbit holes and get that feeding that is somewhat sustaining me. It's giving me some positive vibes. Or I can hold myself accountable to the promise that I made to myself yesterday. And I can be disciplined, and I can get up and get on that rowing machine. And as I'm laying there and I'm thinking about it, I'm like, what separates me as a Green Beret from a regular soldier? Discipline. And I mean, I know there are disciplined soldiers out there, but a Green Beret, you have more. You're capable of doing more. You know, the regular infantryman, he does a superior job at a horrible, you know, rough thing. The Green Beret, he goes past it. And so I was like, I'm disciplined. I'm going to go row. And I did. And the next day I got up and I did. And the next day I got up and I rowed. What I wanted to do, what I was motivated to do, what the dopamine was telling me to do was lay in bed and scroll. Because that was that was feeding me. But that wasn't changing me. So the discipline, not doing what I wanted, not doing what I was motivated to do, was to work out. And then, you know, I find myself, that was, I would say, mid-August where I started that. September, I got really heavy into it. And now I am 6 days a week. I'm doing workouts. I wake up between 4:30 and 5 every morning, whether I want to or not. I mean, there are days that I go to bed, like tonight, I will probably go to bed about midnight. And when my alarm goes off at 4:30, I'm going to get my butt out of bed and I'm going to work out.
I'm going to text you a high five.
Because it's not because I want to. Man, I'll tell you, tomorrow morning at 4:30, I want to be in that warm bed.
Yes.
That is, and I want to scroll. I'm not going to have the same high from working out until afterwards. And so it's that, for me, it's a discipline. And I don't care. I mean, for me, it's I'm using the working out. For you guys out there, it could be anything.
Right.
It's setting that standard and holding yourself accountable to it. And you need to find a way to hold yourself. It needs to be that individual. You'll have greater satisfaction from that. I can hold people accountable. You know, I'm a father. I have 4 daughters. I hold them accountable, but then they don't grow. So I've always thought of training and teaching them to hold themselves to a standard. Then they will be able to grow. Then they will be able to achieve things. And I see it with my 2 oldest daughters, where I no longer have to, I'm more here as an advice counsel. I make the joke that we're roommates. I'm their father, but I don't need to tell them yes or no.
Right.
I just need to be a sounding board, because they're already making those good decisions. Half the time they make better decisions than I do, because they have spent their entire lives holding themselves accountable. And where the last 25 years have done it, but prior to that, when I was a teenager, I didn't hold myself accountable. So really it is setting those standards for yourself and being disciplined about it. That is going to get you past so many of these problems.
So, the thing I have written down is that most people are lacking a challenge for themselves.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think something that, from your example, just of forcing yourself out of bed at 4:30, you're doing that to better yourself because you want to go up or you want to get up and work out.
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to make you feel better. That's what you know you have to do. Well, that's, I think, a life skill that you're building there, or you've already built it, but somebody could be building. Like, I have to force myself out of bed 4:30 every morning and go to work.
Mm-hmm.
No one's holding a gun to my head to do this. I'm just not going to have a job very long.
Yeah.
But while I'm laying in bed with my phone as my alarm clock going off, I could easily just grab my phone and scroll.
Yeah.
And deal with the repercussions later.
And people do that all the time.
Right.
People fall into that trap and they don't go to work. It is amazing, as an instructor, I get all kinds of walks of life. A lot of entrepreneurs are taking my classes. These men that have grown businesses. And one of the reoccurring, and I don't care what industry or what, it's this, I can't get people to stay employed. I can't keep people working. Because they fall into it. They fall into that trap.
I don't know if you would call it an epidemic, but that's definitely something sweeping the country right
Yes.
now. And our podcast is heavily based around entrepreneurship. And every single person we've ever had on, every single person that we know in business that we've talked to before, they all say the same thing. I can't get people to come to work. How do you get somebody to come to work if money doesn't motivate them? And we've had some guests on here that we've talked to previously. They're paying a very, very good wage to do the job that they're trying to do.
Sorry,
No, you're good.
my beard keeps hitting this, and I'm making a horrible noise for everyone. Now I'm making it worse.
Well, I can turn
Okay, good.
you off for a second there until you're ready. You can put it down pretty low; it'll still pick up.
Good. I'm going to do that. Because I'm
That's why I wear the flannel for this, because I can just put it down on the flat.
there. We'll put it there.
See, now I can hear you.
Okay, good.
But that's something that comes up a lot.
So, lodestone training and consulting. Consulting is the other part of our business that we do. A lot of times we come in and it's just security. Like, hey, you should put cameras here, and hey, do you see how easy it was for me to get into that door? You could do this, to make your security better. But we do a lot of that leadership. We have a lot of experience training and motivating people to do things. Literally, they're putting their lives on their line.
Right.
I have trained foreign forces to go and do things that are dangerous for them. So we'll do leadership training. One of the biggest things that I will say to anyone out there, money is not a motivator anymore, because it's almost, we live in such a wealthy society that comparatively you'd be like, well, I don't have 3 Teslas, I'm not Joe Rogan. But you know what? I do have 2 cars, so money isn't the same motivator that it used to be. And there are so many fail-safes that catch people up. And I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole of that. But I'm going to say this. If you give someone a sense of purpose, a true, they believe that what they are doing has value, they then themselves feel valued. Now, how do you do that when your company is a septic tank repair? Well, I don't know. That there are ways. You got to show them that how vital that is to society and maintaining society.
Well, I can tell you firsthand that if your septic tank fails, you'll learn really quickly how valuable that job is.
Yes. But what I'm saying is, how do you get your employee, the guy that's driving the truck, that's actually running the pumps? How do you get that guy, other than financial thing, to understand his value in society.
Right.
And this is one of those areas where as a Green Beret, I understand my value. Like, it's actually one of the things that we do on the team is try and make sure that your head never gets too big. Like, you suck, man. Like, you think you're good, but you're not. You know, you're surrounded by good guys all the time. You get out in society and it's like, oh, you're a Green Beret. I'm like, yeah, I am, but I knew like 30 guys that were better than me, you know? And I don't like to think about the fact that where I rank as far as all the people and everything like that, because that keeps me motivated to always push forward and try and be better. But you have to find a way of giving people that sense of purpose in whatever it is, and empowering people and showing them that they are an asset. Then they have that sense of pride. They're going to get out of bed.
Right.
They're going to come to work because they realize that, hey, if I don't go to work today, this won't be accomplished. You know, it's really easy for people that are in the security industries. You know, when I say that, I mean like throwing doctors and first responders and things like that. If I don't go to work today, someone's going to die.
Right.
You know, that's a pretty powerful motivator.
It's a good reason to get out of bed, maybe.
The challenge is when you have that office worker that your job is entering Excel spreadsheets. You know, that's a tough one. How do I take that person that, you know...
Well, what are these spreadsheets about? Are they launch codes?
So that's where it is. You have to be able to find that value. And what is that value that you're bringing? And if it's something that isn't, it is completely mundane, but it still needs to be done, then you work on some other culture. You work on an office culture that, you know, it is just, you're doing the most mundane, miserable job, but we have a lot of fun here.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of this weird thing that like a lot of the tech industry has done. They have made it where, I have a nephew that he works for DreamWorks.
Okay.
And he is, like, you think DreamWorks, he's not a cartoonist. Like, you know, he works in like crunching numbers and stuff. You know, I mean, it's a mundane job. There's nothing exciting about it. But they realize that. They realize that it's so mundane that they throw all these extra perks in. They could pay him another $20,000 a year, but instead, he has an app on his phone that he gets to order his breakfast. And when he shows up to work that morning, it's already at his desk. They provide his meals, two meals a day. And so, like, it's, for him, he wants to get to work early because his food's getting cold.
I know what I have there.
Yeah, his food is literally getting cold if he's not there. So that's a silly little thing.
No, that's genius.
But it works.
Yeah.
It really works. It gets people in those seats.
That would absolutely get me
and
to
they
work.
feel value. They feel value in it.
Yeah.
You know, I went with my girlfriend to her Christmas party.
Okay.
And they went all out on that Christmas party. I mean, it was an open bar, and I mean, it was a nice restaurant. The food was phenomenal. The employers, the owners of the company were there, and they were thanking people, and they gave awards. And I mean, it was silly. Like, as an outsider, you know, I'm saying like, oh, you got an award. Okay. You know, yay. You know, let me tell you about some of the awards I got once, you know. But to those people that were being recognized, man, they're going to break their backs this year because they felt valued in their job. And they felt that, hey, if I don't go, the company's not going to be as successful. I'm an integral part in this. So
one philosophy that I have, I don't know where I got it from. I read it somewhere. I didn't come up with it on my own comment section. But is that you should never compare your problems to somebody else's, because so the worst thing going on in my life right now may not hold a candle to the worst thing going on in your life, but that doesn't discredit the fact that it's the worst thing going on in my life. And I think it's important to be cognizant of that with other people. I guess that's doing it the other way around is, you know, what might not be the biggest deal in terms of the entire business. Well, it's a big deal in Johnny's life because it's an accomplishment for Johnny. And it's important to recognize and reward that.
Yeah. And, it's, I remember I was a young 18 Bravo. I had been in group. This is my first deployment in group. And my award got sent up, and I had done some things, and it got kicked back down, and it was downgraded. And it was supposed to be a Bronze Star, and it was downgraded to an Army, ARCOM, Army Commendation Medal, which is that's what you get for PCSing, moving to a different unit, Okay. And the Sergeant Major put on a sticky note, a little yellow sticky note, and I used to have this. 18 Bravo did what 18 Bravo should do. And I remember that I remember that my leadership,
right,
like my team leader and my team sergeant, they're all upset about that. They're like, and they're grumpy. And I took that little yellow sticky note, I kept that thing for a really long time because it reminded me that I was just doing what I was supposed to be doing. Now, someone else doing that same exact thing, that would have been a heroic act. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's a Tuesday.
Right.
Why should I be rewarded for a Tuesday? Right. But someone else doing what I do is so far out of the ordinary for them that it should be recognized. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's where kind of that empathy comes in, where we look at someone else's problem that may be so small to us. I give an example. I have a private class that I was teaching, and one of the guys, and this is literally maybe 6 months after I lost my wife. He's telling me about how depressed he is and that he's borderline suicidal because his dog just died. And, there's this moment where I'm like, bro, are you really, you're sad about a dog? Mm-hmm. Like your dog, my wife of 20 years, Mm-hmm. And it was, I had to stop. Okay. To this man who has nothing,
yep,
that dog was everything. I still have my daughters. I still have my career. I still have my support group. I still have my friends. I still have my family. It doesn't compare. Mm-hmm. His tragedy, it's like going to the gym and looking at the guy that's just barely able to push up the bar, But for him, that is the greatest struggle in the world, Right. We have that empathy, and we look at those people and be like, okay, how can I help them? How can I help them become stronger? Mm-hmm. How can I be encouraging? Like, hey man, you're doing really good with that. Here, try and fix your form like this, and let's put some 5s on there. Let's build you up, okay? Yeah. And when that individual looks back at us and sees us putting up, 225 and just doing reps with it, it's like, but no. Look, you can't compare yourself to other people in the gym. Right. You're never going to grow that way. You have to see where you're at and set your goals and push for those goals. And then as the people in the circle, we have to help those people reach those goals. Mm-hmm. I'm a big believer in understanding the greater tribe and, having the friends and the support network and building out. I once heard in a church talk, lift where you stand. Okay. We can sit here and we can argue about what's the best place to stand on the piano. Like, put all the tall guys on the end here, put all the strong guys here, and we're going to never move the piano. But if we just lift where we stand, if we just put our hands on the piano and everyone lifts, we're going to start moving the piano. Mm-hmm. So as that tribe, as that group of people, let's just start doing something. And then if corrections have to be made, if things have to be adjusted, you adjust as needed,
Okay. So almost get the ball rolling rather than talk about how you're going to move the ball.
Yeah.
I had to laugh through that conversation, not at what you were saying, because my mind went right back to you are a disappointment.
So we did an exercise. I don't know if you've told them about the exercise.
I don't think I have.
Okay, so the first thing Jason does with me, the first actual class he does,
yes.
I drop him in the woods, and he's going to be in the woods by himself for 24 hours.
This is the second time I've ever met you.
Yes.
And
yes.
I have been, oh God, I don't even know how to describe the buildup that I've had to this class, because I drove the 4 hours to the location, actually 5.5 hours to the location with Dan.
Yeah.
who is not looking forward to this event. And he is just telling me what to expect. And I'm like, great. Chris is going to drop me off, and it's going to be a cliffside on every side of me. And it's going to be like, good luck. Bye.
Dropped you off by yourself.
Yep.
You had 24 hours to survive and evade because we had active people out there looking for you. Mm-hmm. Then you had to link up with a buddy. Mm-hmm. And then you had to, once you another 24 hours, and then you had to do the third day, link up with the whole group, and you had to go secure your location.
Right.
The whole time I was driving around with my 4Runner, and I had a speaker playing propaganda. And one of the best was, I just said over and over and over, "You are a disappointment. You are a disappointment." You know, it was meant to get to people, and it did.
And a very key point of this story that you're leaving out, and I don't know if you're doing this on purpose or not.
Or maybe, I just forgot it.
Or maybe you didn't realize it because you weren't in my shoes. So you dropped, everybody who took this class got dropped off. It wasn't just me, obviously. So you dropped us all off. Before that, our phones were taken from us.
Yes.
We had no technology. We were allowed our watches.
Yep.
We had no technology on us. We had a radio on us that everybody else in the class and in the cadre had. But we were only allowed to have that on at 2 points during the day.
Yeah.
So you are dropped and you are by yourself.
Yep.
And for an average person like me, going from my phone rings off the hook every day on a just regular basis from work alone, let alone if I need to talk to somebody or I don't need to talk to somebody, but I do talk to somebody,
mm-hmm.
like that right there is a lot. So then when you are in the woods and it was pouring rain and I remember your speech in the beginning very well. I will never forget this. It was, there's a lot of places in the world right now going through a drought and they don't have water. People are very thirsty. They're going to die. But we, Lodestone, got you guys torrential downpours. You're welcome. And then off we went.
Yeah.
But so I'm sitting there or laying there, pitch black all around me. I know that I am actively being hunted, which apparently wasn't as bad as Dan led me to believe. So I'm like panicking. And all I hear in the distance is the creaking 4Runner telling me I'm a disappointment. That really gets to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when you're just sitting there like, oh, am I?
Well, it goes back to, we are so bombarded, like we are never alone.
No.
And that's a weird thing because there are so many people that are so alone right now, but they are not. They are surrounded by stuff. Until you experience what that true isolation is, you really don't realize how alone you are. In the Special Forces Assessment and Selection course, SFAS, they do something called the STAR course. It's a long land navigation course. And part of the whole concept is that they want to see if you're trainable. They give you every piece of information that you need to know about land nav. You don't need to know land nav to go to selection. It helps a lot. I've known land nav since I was a Boy Scout. I do it for fun, so it helped a lot. But there are guys that literally don't know anything that pass because they are taught everything they need to know. The other thing that they're looking for is they want to see what you do when you're alone, when you are absolutely isolated. And they start you off on a very, very dark night. They plan selection around the moon cycle, and they'll start you off in the pitch, and you can't use a flashlight. If you're caught using a flashlight, you're kicked out. And it really, shockingly, weeds so many people out just because they cannot stand to be alone. I have people ask all the time, like, how do I prepare for selection? It's one of the things that we get, I'll get hit up on Instagram. Hey, I'm going to selection. What's the best thing I should do? Put a rucksack on, wear the rucksack 8 hours a day. Put 85 pounds in it, go mow the lawn, do the dishes, do the laundry, walk up and down the stairs. Don't bother going and rucking or anything don't put your headphones in and walk down the side of the road. All that's garbage. Put the weight on, keep it on. The other thing, learn what it's like to be alone. Learn what it's like to only count on yourself. If you can count on yourself, then others can count on you. And then when you start doing the team week stuff and realize that you are just a cog in the wheel and no one is going to have to depend on, no one's going to have to carry me. They can all depend on me because I can depend on myself. You're going to get selected. That's going to be an easy day for you.
Mm-hmm. As as a regular person, going through that class was an experience.
Yeah.
I can't thank you guys enough for that class. It taught me a lot about myself. But I think it goes back, you know, I have challenges in my life, whether they're financial, marital, or work, whatever. Never something like that. Never something that every challenge that I faced in that, because I had actually got pulled out on medical. I destroyed my knee. But I was in it for 53 hours or something. So every bit of that 53 hours, the challenge in front of me, I was able to overcome with nothing more than what was either in my pack or my own two hands. And that, I don't want to say it was life-changing, but it was very close. Because I hadn't done that in a very long time. And I think...
Well, you mentioned it, doing hard things. That is a great, I can sit here and say, set a goal, like get up at 4:30. That works for me. That works for you, and we have it for different reasons. But setting something like, I'm turning 45 this year. So I have set a physical fitness goal for my 45th birthday. And I'm actively training to meet that goal because that's going to be cool. Other people, it could be something, and it's a hard goal. It's not a, like, I can achieve this easily. Like I've done this before. There is a likelihood I'm going to fail. I'm not going to accept that failure. I'm going to do everything I can to get to that point because I want to pass that goal. Other people, it could be something like, I'm going to run a marathon, or I'm going to do a Spartan race. I do definitely recommend that whatever your goal you set it on that edge of impossibility, but not impossible.
That was a question
I
was getting ready to ask you.
If you are right now sitting on the couch and you have sat on the couch for the last 5 years and you're 50 pounds overweight, a marathon's probably not the goal you want to set this year. A 5K, a 10K, a 5K, doable. Anyone can do a 5K. Say you're going to do a 10K and then start training for it. Pick something that is hard. And I'm saying that that's right on that cusp of impossibility.
You should have a little bit of a doubt in your mind.
Yes. And then what you're going to do is so my birthday is coming up in the spring. I'm going to be training, and I've sought out experts, and my girlfriend happens to be
that's not fair. You're dating an expert.
Yeah, she's a strength and conditioning coach. So I'm like, hey, this is the date. This is where I need to be. And she's built a whole program for me. And she knows that I travel. So like next week I'll be in SHOT Show. So she's online, like looking at gyms in Vegas for me to have a place to go lift. And
That's so not fair.
It's a tribe, right? We have our people that help us out. So set that challenge for yourself. And then something that I learned from my 17-year-old daughter, one of the best things that you can do when you set that challenge is let everyone know about it. Because, I'm going to hold myself accountable, but all these other people are now counting on you.
And they're going to hold you even more accountable.
Yeah, so she did our light fighter this year, and she was not ready for it. As her father, as a man who has trained people.
What is the light fighter?
The light fighter challenge is it starts off with, you have to get to work. You do an 8-mile road march with a 35-pound rucksack. Now that sounds pretty easy.
When you say road march, you're lying.
It is actually a backcountry hill climb with quite the terrain.
Do you know the elevation changes?
Oh, I think it was like 200 feet or something like that.
1,300. You know how I know that? Logged the whole thing on my watch.
That's good. So you do that, and a lot of people will just think that is the hardest thing that they're going to do. And then there are 8 more events. There is shooting, there's axe throwing, there is fire starting, there is land navigation, there is medical. There's all these other things that you have to do after you're smoked. So my daughter was challenged by one of her friends to do it. And so they did it together. And as I'm training her, I'm busy and I don't have time to get her really ready. So I kind of was like, hey, wear your rucksack, wear it a lot. And I took her hiking as many times as I could. And I was like, I know this course. She's not ready. But I'm not going to take this opportunity away from her. I'm not going to tell her not to do it. So I advised her. I said, hey, I don't know if you're ready for this. And she said, well, I've told all these people that I'm going to do this, so I have to do this. I am being held accountable. I gave her the out. I gave her hey, as your dad, I don't recommend this. As a trainer, I don't recommend this. And she said, no, I've set a goal. I'm going to do hard things. And so I was terrified. I was terrified that she was going to fail and what that was going to do to her. She didn't. She succeeded. She finished. She actually placed, not in the top 10, but she did very, very well. She actually beat out some people that that should have done better than her, but for whatever reason, they failed at some of the tasks that she knew how to do. And the confidence that that's given her has been huge, because she set a hard, and in my opinion, an impossible goal and achieved it.
That was a very difficult exercise. I'm sorry. I know it was easy for a lot of people, but that was difficult. And me and my group of friends did a lot to try and get ready for it.
Yeah.
None of it worked. But
oh, I'm excited for this year. I'm already.
I'm not.
I'm already starting. I'm
Terrified.
I'm trying to find a new tunnel.
Great. I might have a lead on that. So, would you say that, along with setting goals and challenges, that the sense of accomplishment becomes recognizable, and that's something that I guess it would be used as a motivator, if not a dopamine substitute?
Yes. So, in this society where everyone gets a ribbon, the ribbon means nothing, right?
Right.
So we have to find things that are recognized that go beyond the mediocrity, right? So at the Light Fighter, there was the Light Fighter tab, and then there was the Pennsylvania Light Fighter tab,
Which was top 10.
which was the top 10. So everyone that participated got something for pushing themselves and doing that. But the people that got the other, that means more to them.
I'm very jealous. And that is a burning desire now.
And so we have to have those actual true rewards.
Something, if I can interject, that I have a lot of respect for LTAC as a company, because if you did not finish, you didn't get a tab.
Yeah.
There was no participation trophy. And this was designed to be a hard thing. And there should not be a participation trophy. In my opinion, there shouldn't be, and I would be completely okay if I didn't get one.
It's one of those things like, you can get the T-shirt because you showed up, but you don't get the recognition of being the Light Fighter unless you're the Light Fighter.
Right.
Unless you have done everything that is required, and it's it's one of those. We're so worried about hurting people's feelings that we're actually doing so much damage to people, because no one is then truly being praised. I was in the grocery store, this was like 2 years ago. We had just moved to Pennsylvania, and we ran into this woman who we went to church with, and she's talking to my wife, and she had her little boy with her. And she's like, I had to get little Timmy from school because, he's being bullied. And this kid's like, his countenance just falls. Like, he's just so embarrassed, right? And I immediately, I saw this boy melt in front of me. And I was like, oh man, that is awesome, bro. That is awesome. And he like kind of looks at me like, what are you talking about? I was like, being bullied is one of the greatest things that ever happened to me, because I was a skinny, scrawny, short little kid. Like, my little brother, from the time I was 12 to I was 16, was taller than I was. When I turned 16, I went from being 5'6" to 6'2" in like a year and a half. Crazy. Just
that's a growth spurt.
Yeah, it was a crazy growth spurt. It was really painful. I was a long distance runner, so I was always really thin. When I joined the Army, I was 135 pounds. Yeah, I'm 210 right now.
Yeah.
But I was always small. Even when I became tall, I was still really small. And so I was bullied. I was picked on. I had all those things. But that became fuel. It became a motivation to accomplish something, to be something, do something. And I have come back to that fuel tank so many times in my life where, I'm struggling to accomplish this thing, and I can look in the back of my mind and see where someone told me I couldn't, where I could see where someone said that I was weak. And then, suddenly I'm pushing that weight up. I'm like, oh no, I'm not weak. Mm-hmm. I'm a beast. Yep. I am a savage. I'm going to destroy. And, I have the fortune of now, I'm 44 and I'm on social media, on Instagram because of work, because of Lodestone.
Because forced.
It's an advertisement. It's a billboard.
Right.
My mother is on Facebook and all that stuff. And the number one, bully that I had growing up, his name was Jason.
Great.
He,
fantastic.
He is the night watchman at a retirement home. And this guy has never been married, has no children, has never accomplished anything with his life.
He's doing wonderful.
His whole ambition in life, he sets a Facebook survey every night. What movies should I watch tonight at work? And that is his social interaction, is people vote and interact and correspond with this guy on what movie he should watch.
That's sad for two reasons. One, for the fact that it is.
And that people participate in this.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
So it was one of those things where my mother was like, oh, isn't this great? You're a Green Beret, you have beautiful family, you've done all these accomplishments, and this guy is so sad. And there was a moment where I was like, yeah. And then I was like, I don't care. Mm-hmm. I really don't.
If anything, kind of feel bad for him.
I have no feelings for him.
Yeah.
But I still use the fuel. I still use when he dragged me around by my tie at church when I was 13 years old. I still remember that feeling. So when I find myself feeling weak and needing to be strong and needing to have something to remind me why I need to be strong, man, suddenly I've got Jason's face in my eyes. Mm-hmm. He's pulling on my red tie, and man, it's better than any pre-workout. I'm doing this, savage.
Now, do you also think that knowing that you can pull a memory and overcome a challenge, does that benefit you, I guess, to kind of circle back when... God, I just said circle back.
Okay, Jen.
Thanks. To revisit what we were originally talking about, knowing that you can pull on an emotion to give yourself that push that you need. Does that give you confidence, I guess, when you're facing adversity?
Oh yeah, yeah. And the other side of that coin is all the successes. Mm-hmm. You have a saying on the team: you're only as good as your last screw up. You can succeed all these times, but you put jumpers out on a red light one time, you're off the team. That's
probably a big deal.
That's one for Light Chris.
Oh yeah,
yeah. That's a dig at him.
Oh, boy.
So yes, you need to be able to still look at those things that act as fuel, but you also need. Hey, I have succeeded before. I've been in gunfights before and I survived, so I'm going to survive this one. Mm-hmm. Statistically, the odds are in my favor. I will make it up this hill.
Right.
It sucks right now, but I've made it up here before. I will be able to push this weight up because I've done it before.
Have you ever been in the middle of something that sucks and been like, well, this is nothing compared to...
Oh, yeah. And or being reminded, man, this is really painful. Oh, this really hurts. And that's when either a memory comes into my mind of when, no, I was actually in pain. Mm-hmm. Or when I experienced something that was truly tragic, And I give the example, like most people, I can be a little aggressive driver, And I had a little BMW who I'm passing a truck. Now I'm doing 83 miles an hour. I'm passing a truck and this guy's right on me. So I get over and he gets in front of me. And then he pulls into my lane, and I have to pass him again. And he leapfrogs me again. And now it's game on. Now it's
entertainment.
I am going to follow behind you. I have a light bar on the Forerunner, so I got the light bar on, and I'm staying where it's just right in his rearview mirror. And I passed my exit. And I realize I'm doing like 90 some miles an hour, and I'm like, what am I going to do when I catch this guy? Like, I need to ratchet this back.
How am I going to explain this when I get pulled over?
Yeah, I need to control my anger.
That's when the kids say #worth it.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that we have to recognize. Yeah, I'm having this emotional response right now. Like, this guy is really pissing me off. Mm-hmm. Like, this guy dared to leapfrog with me. But what does it matter?
Yeah.
I've been in real tragedies. Like, I've been in gunfights where my life really was on the line. This jerk who can't drive and maintain speeds, it's not really upsetting me.
Right.
I drive a lot right now, going out to Pittsburgh, and I guess people just get really bored on the turnpike and they want to play that leapfrog game. And part of it is I'm an aggressive animal, and so it's like the animal inside went, oh yeah, I'll play this game. But then I have to think, okay, what's really going on here? What emotions am I really experiencing it? And this is not a life and death thing. This is not a challenge. They think it's a challenge. They think this is the greatest challenge ever. But to me, this is just an annoying thing.
Right. There's a flip side of that too. Do they think it's a challenge? I've been that guy.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm late, speeding, and then, wait, was that a cop? Better pull over. I wouldn't keep doing it, but I've definitely been in that situation. And then I lost the thought. Dang.
Yeah, I'm good at doing that.
It'll come back.
Confusing people. Yeah.
Create feelings that people don't even understand.
Yeah.
Or something. But yeah, I think I will not say circle back, but to reiterate, it's important to do difficult things so that you can even gauge your own levels.
You have to set those impossible challenges. Mm-hmm. And it has to be, again, within reason. I'm going to give up sugar. Okay, that's going to be an extreme thing to do. I'm going to give up putting sugar in things. Okay, I'm going to actively avoid processed foods. That's more realistic than I'm going to start looking at labels on everything. It's the new year. So we have got all these people that are setting all these goals, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And right now, what they're facing, they are so motivated. Right now, you're experiencing this rush of motivation. In March, that motivation doesn't exist anymore. Yep. So what's going to carry you through is the discipline. So in March, you're going to be motivated to drink that Monster. I gave up Monster last January. It has been almost a year. And
sorry.
No, it doesn't even have an effect anymore. And it was one of those, it was a comfort. Monster, right. Green Monster was a comfort for me. It wasn't the caffeine. I could drink one of the large ones, pound that thing down, and go to sleep.
So I've been there.
Yeah.
I used to take a pot of coffee to get me going in the morning.
Yeah, it was just it was a comfort thing.
Right.
That's what I always had. I found myself in a stressful situation last summer, and the first thing that I wanted was a Monster. Mm-hmm. It was very funny. Jared actually brought out a Monster. He had emptied out and poured a Dr. Pepper in it. So he gave it to me, and I drank. I took a sip, and he's like, I didn't let you down, did I? Because my tribe came in and they helped me with that problem. They got me through that. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we are weak, and we have to have those friends to help us. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
We have to understand that we are social creatures, and sometimes we have to depend on the greater tribe. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we need that external
and that's
accountability.
Nothing to be ashamed about.
No, it isn't. And it's one of those things that it's actually, there's more power to be able to accept your weakness and convey that to your people. And if your people are truly your people, they're going to be there. Mm-hmm. And you're going to find out with a quickness who your people are and who your people aren't.
Oh yeah.
There is the fair weather friend, and there's the guy that it is pouring down rain and I've got to drive 10 hours. Okay, buddy, I'll see you in 9.5 hours.
I've been that friend.
You are that friend.
Yeah.
You are that friend.
Yeah.
I have done that.
And
And that shows you a lot about your people. And then it also shows a lot about yourself. If you are that person and you have those people in your life, it's the Rice Krispie theory. You eat a bowl of Rice Krispies and like you're down to like the last 2 or 3, spoonfuls. They all cling together in these little clusters, right?
Okay.
That's how humans are. My buddy Sergeant Nicely had this thing, the Rice Krispie theory. He's like, the dirtbags stick with dirtbags, and the good people stick with good people. You can automatically know if you can vet a guy the moment he tells you who he associates with. So when you meet a guy and he starts naming the people that he associates with, and you're like, huh, I don't like any one of those guys. You know you're not going to like that guy because those are his friends.
Right.
And I have, in my life, I have very, very rarely experienced the Rice Krispie theory where someone associates with, how do I keep this politically correct? Undesirable people, people that are selfish, people that are corrupt, people that are criminals.
Right.
Very, very rarely have I met anyone that associates with them that's a good person. On the other hand, I have met good people that, you're, for instance, the people you associate with. Those are all people that I recognize, and I recognize any one of those as a good, you're automatically vetted. The moment you showed up to Avalanche, you came with Dan, you're vetted. I knew that I could speak freely in front of you. I knew because of Rice Krispie theory, you're a good guy.
Right.
And our tribe says a lot about us.
I've never heard it put that way. It makes a lot of sense. I've definitely lived with that.
Yeah.
I may steal that at some point.
I stole it from Nicely, so yeah.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Going back a little bit to one of the things, going back to like participation trophies and everything. So you've met my wife, which I do want to sneak that in there at some point. I'll do it now. That I think it's important for anybody watching to know, like, this isn't an advertisement for Lodestone, but I firmly believe in everything that you guys do. It's not just, you don't need to be into firearms to go to a Lodestone class. No. My wife is a neonatal ICU nurse, enjoys going to Lodestone classes. She's very happy on the drive home. She's very excited to talk about everything she just learned. And I mean, we've gone to live fire classes, but we've also been to a handful of your classroom classes, and some of them are nothing pertaining to that. Your intel class is nothing pertaining to firearms. So it's kind of the thing, like, if you can make it out, you as in person behind the camera, if you can make it out to one of your classes, I highly recommend anybody does it. They're very affordable, because you will get a sense of accomplishment out of that class, for one. You will learn something that's important that you can keep in your little mental toolbox to help you get through something. And it's just a good time. You meet a lot of good people. But I wanted to say that because I would be afraid that somebody would potentially look at it and be like, well, that's not something that I'm afraid of, that world or something like that. There's many options. Take a land nav class. Take intel class.
One of the classes that I recommend the most is the mindset seminar that Jared does. He doesn't do it as often as I think we should do it. He thinks that it's everyone's already taken that. I'm like, no, everyone that comes to our classes has taken that, but there are so many people out there that could benefit from that class. And we're starting something in February. We're doing a Super Tuesday. So it's going to be every Tuesday. No, sorry, not every Tuesday. Every third. Second or third Tuesday. It's going to be
second, because it's on
Valentine's Day. Is going to be a 3-hour seminar. The idea is, hey, put it on your calendar. Tuesday night, there's going to be at the Elizabethtown office, there's going to be a seminar. And it's going to be a whole width and breadth of different things. Clinics and seminars and preparations and planning and different things geared around making the light fighter, the well-rounded individual. The mindset is huge. Another one that I really suggest to everyone is the food preservation course that both Abby and Jared teach. We believe in having food storage. I mean, that is, I mean, you have a freeze dryer. I have a freeze dryer. We know a lot of people that have freeze dryers.
I have 7 deep freezes now.
7 deep freezes.
I have a problem.
Yeah, that is definitely more than I have.
There's something wrong. So you shouldn't have to put your own circuit in for deep freezes.
And that is.
And then, you might be proud of me for this. I put another outlet in next to the door in case we lose power and the backup generator fails. I can run another generator just to keep the freezers going.
Well, you got that pace plan going.
Yes, I do.
But everyone can benefit from learning about how to do that food storage. And that is definitely, if you're not into any of these things, throwing the tinfoil hat on, as the Intel analyst, historically, any time that a people is cowed and controlled, it's through food. You are willing to give up your rights to feed your kids. That's just a thing.
So I don't want to take too much out of your and Jared's podcast, but there is something that he talks about. I can't remember what episode it is. If I can find it, I will put it in the pinned comment. But he talks about the beginning of the pandemic, where everybody was rushing out to get food, and a lot of people got toilet paper, but that's not the point. Everybody's rushing out to get food. He didn't have to. You didn't have to. My wife and I didn't have to. And it's not because we're like some crazy preppers here. It's we enjoy that comfort of knowing if something happens. My wife lost her job, but I didn't. But if I did, we still had food.
Yep.
She was pregnant. We could still get her the nourishment she needed. You know, that's something I think that goes along with what we're saying here. There is a comfort in
100%,
knowing.
100%.
Yes.
If we are prepared, you are going to fear a lot less.
Yes.
You know, it's, we do a lot of law enforcement training. You have the officer that shows up to a crime scene or an active scene, and the only time that he has used his gun was 10 months ago when he did his annual qual. That man is terrified. Fear is driving his actions.
And you make really good decisions when you're terrified, right?
Versus the officer who just got done taking a formalized training course, who spent the past 40 hours learning new techniques. He has more confidence. He is more capable of de-escalating a situation where that other officer is going to go to gun really quickly because I'm scared and I've got this magic talisman that's going to, you know, stop this bad guy. Where that other officer who has had that training knows exactly at what point he needs to deploy that firearm. He knows it's not a magical talisman. He knows that its capabilities and its lacking capabilities. And he's constantly making those assessments and those changes to the situation. He is not afraid because he has been prepared. The righteous need not fear. If we do everything that we're supposed to, okay, it's just a Tuesday.
Right.
You know, I'll get through this. And that's one of the biggest lessons that I think a lot of people took out of the pandemic. And it's either side that you're on. There is the side that I am new to this world because of things that I saw, and it scared me, and now I'm making things so I won't be afraid again. And those people are awesome. And then there are those of us that have always done this, that have always, you know, had food storage, had training, did things with our family, had those confidence that when we saw everything that happened in 2020, we were validated. We were like, oh, I'm not crazy. All right. You know, cool. I got this, you know.
It was in my wedding vows. I promise I'm not crazy. But, yeah, and that's a very important takeaway, too, is that it's never too late. You can start.
No, it isn't.
You don't have to go crazy at this.
You know, it's one of the things that we talk about in the food prep seminar is buy an extra can of soup. You know, like, I know everyone's got a budget. Everyone's on, you know, they're very rarely that person that's like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to shift that extra $1 million that I have coming in and I'll buy everything this month.
Right.
That's unrealistic. So you throw in that extra can of soup. If you like a certain cereal, buy an extra box of it.
Right.
You know, and slowly start building that up. And as you do that, you will gain the confidence that you're not afraid. And that will reduce the stress, that will reduce the anxiety, and you'll be better for it.
So I can tell you quickly how I got into this lifestyle, because truly it's a lifestyle. It's a way of thinking. It's a mindset. Before I met my wife, I had a lot of incidents with an ex that led me with the 2 dogs and the house and the 2 car payments and everything by myself. And at that point in my life, I didn't have a big savings account. So it was like, well, now what? One income doesn't cover this.
Yeah.
So then you start cutting costs and you're like, well, I guess I'm not going to get a steak. I'm going to get a hot dog. And then next week, I guess I'm not going to get a hot dog. I'm going to get ramen.
Yeah.
So then I started looking at it like, well, as I'm going to get my ramen, I'm walking down the food aisle and I'm looking over and it's like, broccoli and cheese soup, 10 for 10. It's not a bad deal. I'll buy 10 and I'll put them in the pantry. And then next paycheck, when I can't afford ramen, I got broccoli and cheese soup, And I'm exaggerating a little bit, but that is legitimately what started me in acquiring a storage of food. And then when I met my wife and we moved in together, she saw it and she started like using it more frequently than I would like. And I kind of was like, hey, we got to replace that.
Yeah.
And I explained all this to her and she's like, I never thought of it like that. And then the pandemic hit. And then we went because we would just normally go to Giant on a Tuesday because that was our day where we both were home at the same time, where we would go and get groceries. And I remember walking in because I very rarely paid attention to the news. And still to this day, I'm sorry, I don't much. After the Intel class, I've gotten better, but I don't much pay attention to the news. But I remember walking in and I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, you don't know? I'm like, I don't have Facebook. What's going on? And she's like, oh, this pandemic. And I'm like, oh, whatever. So we start walking down. I'm like, well, maybe we should get some beans.
Yeah.
And we walk down a canned food aisle. On my life, this is true. Stocked to the hills. 2 aisles over is the paper goods. Bare. I'm like, what are you going to use the paper goods for without the
Yeah.
All right, whatever.
Yep.
And we filled our cart up and we went home and we added to our food storage, and life didn't really change for us as far as grocery shopping. Well, we were very fortunate. We actually helped out our neighbors. And we helped out some friends. We're like, here, take these cans of broccoli and cheese soup. I've had them for 3 years. They're still good though.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm trying to say in a very long-winded way is it allowed us to focus on what was important at the time and not add something that's very stressful and pressing into the mix.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much that. I have one point that I'd like to add, and then I have one question for you.
Okay.
I don't know if you have anything that you'd like to add. Okay. So back to participation trophies. My firm belief, my wife's firm belief, and what we were trying to pass on to our son is that, and I always butcher this, losing should suck and being stupid should hurt. And I think a lot of problems would be solved in a few years if that was the case.
I agree with that. I don't like to lose. It is a motivator to get stronger and to be better. And, if I never burned my finger on the stove, I would still be touching the stove.
Exactly.
Stupid hurts.
It's supposed to.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is something new that I've been dying to start on this podcast every time we have a guest, and I'm very happy that you're the first person.
All right.
This is a question I'm going to ask everybody, word for word, from this point on. If someone you've never met before came up to you and asked for one piece of advice to help them better their life, what would you offer?
Hands down, be disciplined. Find out what that means for you. Set those hard things and hold yourself to those standards. Being disciplined is going to be the greatest gift that anyone can give you. And you have to give yourself that discipline. It is something that I'm not going to say that I'm perfect at. It's something that even after 20 years being in the Army, I am still working at being disciplined. It is going to change your life. So that's the number one thing that if someone asks me for advice, you need to be disciplined.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
I very, very much appreciate your time. This
Thank
one ran
you.
a little bit longer.
Sorry.
No,
I'm
no.
long-winded.
I'm glad. It was a pleasure to have you, and I do thank you for your time. I hope that you'll be back.
Absolutely.
Jared should be on here
Yeah.
at some point. I'd like to have both of you.
Anytime that you want, let me know and we'll make it happen.
Have your truck break down more often.
I hopefully not. I would prefer to drive to you. How's that sound?
That'd be great.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is another episode of A Few Points from Perfect, and I thank everybody for watching. Shoot us an email if you have a suggestion at aviewpointsfromperfect@yahoo.com. But that's it.
All right. Take care, guys.